Welcome to Doc's Download, the podcast edition, where real conversations meet real Buckeye life. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Shivers, Senior Vice President for Student Life, and better known as Doc, here to bring you stories, strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Whether you're a brand new Buckeye or a seasoned one, consider this your all-access pass to tips, truths, and triumphs straight from the heart of campus. Let's dive in, everybody. Welcome to Doc's Download, the podcast edition, where we unpack leadership, life, and lessons with a little bit of heart and a whole lot of authenticity. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Shivers, but you all can call me Doc. Today's episode is called Binge-Worthy Leadership Lessons. And yes, we're diving into what shows like Ted Lasso and The Bear can teach us about empathy, leadership fails, and the power of kindness. So let's get to know our wonderful guests who are joining me in studio today, Dave D'Angelo, Maddox Rickens, and Renisha Weston. So let's everybody start with some introductions. The best part, I think, at least the beginning of the podcast, is for my listeners to be able to know more about who's behind the microphone, who is bringing all this knowledge and experience, in particular as Ohio State sort of, what's the word that I want to use? Heroes. I'm going to call you all Ohio State heroes today. So a couple of points I would love to have you share. Tell us your name, major, if that's appropriate, what you are finding as the most interesting part of your Ohio State experience, and sort of to layer onto that, what's the thing that you love the most about Ohio State? Now, sometimes people have trouble picking just one, so I will let you have two, but that's it. We're not going to three. We're not going to go to five. We're gonna cut it off. Cut it off right there. All right. So, Renisha, let's start with you.
All right. Well, hello. My name is Renisha Weston. I'm the director of the Student Life Student Wellness Center. I forgot a lot of the bullet points you said, so I'm just gonna ramble until you tell me to stop.
Wing it.
My favorite part of Ohio State. So I enjoy food, and I really appreciate the food on campus is really good. I have worked on other campuses before this position, and I can't say that every spot on campus is delicious, but I can say that for Ohio State. So I really enjoyed that, and my quality time at Mirror Lake, I really enjoy that. So when I take my wellness walks, I kind of find myself just wandering around the lake. It's beautiful in the summertime. Obviously, the weather's nice, and so that's great. But it's also really, really sweet at the beginning of semesters when you have students there. There's just a bit more life there, and I just really appreciate that. So
It is beautiful.
Yes.
It is beautiful.
Yes. And something that I continuously learn at Ohio State is that each building is so unique, and there are very, very unique parts of the building. So the architect building, one of my students informed me that there's some really cool things in there. So when I decide to wander off again, I'll probably be going to go hang out there just to see what's there. But I'm learning that every building here is unique, and there's something very special about them all.
There's a garden on the roof, you know.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Of the architecture building?
Yeah. It's really cool, too. An
Very
outdoor garden
cool.
up on the very top.
Kind of feels like the zoo, like walking around.
It kind of does,
Yeah.
Kind of
Wow.
does, yeah.
That sounds like a good place for a wellness walk.
I agree.
Renisha, I like that. Maybe we can tag team.
Absolutely. I would love
together.
that. Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Maddox, tell us about you.
All right. My name is Maddox Rickens. I'm a fourth-year food business management major, and I'm the vice president of Ohio Staters Incorporated. Favorite thing about OSU, I mean, it's got to be game days, not just for the football itself, but more for the camaraderie. Everybody's walking around yelling OH, IO, and everybody's in a good mood. So it's really hard to be sad on days like that. And then also, I really like Light Up the Lake. It's a little self-plug for Ohio Staters.
That's okay.
But we do have the event coming up Thursday, November 20th. And it's just a super fun event to celebrate the end of the year. It's always super pretty. So one of my
What
other
is
favorite
Light Up
things.
the Lake? Tell them a little bit more.
So, Light Up the Lake is our event where we are celebrating the end of the semester, and we put up 60,000 lights representing 60,000 students. It might be up to 67,000 now because we have 67,000, which is crazy. And we have a bunch of student performer groups come out and do like jump rope, salsa dancing. It's really cool. And then we all sing Carmen, Ohio at the end.
Which makes everything better.
Yeah, ties it all in.
Ties it all together. Well, I think that you talking about your role within Staters is quite appropriate for the conversation that we're going to have today. And I can't wait till we dive in to hear more about any of your leadership lessons and how you choose to lead as the vice president of Staters. So thanks for sharing. Last but not least, the Dave D'Angelo.
I'm Dave D'Angelo. I serve as a senior associate director in recreational sports in the Office of Student Life. Grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. I've been back here at Ohio State for about 25 years, but I went to school here and was here for 7 years. But I got 2 degrees in that time. So
that's really good.
At least, yeah.
Wow, that's really good.
And my favorite thing about Ohio State has got to be our students. I mean, it's awesome to just be able to work with all of them, not only in my regular job, as overseeing our facilities and rec sports, but I get to serve as the advisor for Ohio Staters, which has just been a tremendous experience for me. And doing things like STEP and getting to really know the students on a much more personal level has really been a rewarding thing. So I think that's my favorite thing by far.
That's awesome. And probably one of the reasons that you're joining us today is because of the leadership that you display, Dave, and the way that you go about supporting so many of our students and also your colleagues, internal and external to Ohio State. So I'm excited to jump into this conversation. For the listeners, I have to give you a little bit of background. So when I came to Ohio State, one of the things that I loved doing was watching movies on Sundays. I would carve out Sunday as my movie day. So I was always taking suggestions of shows or movies that I should watch or binge, just to kind of clear my mind and think about other things, right? And Dave D'Angelo was a person who provided me with a laundry list of things that I should watch or engage with. And both Ted Lasso and The Bear, which is what we're talking about today, were on those lists. And so it felt really appropriate as we were thinking about what would the next podcast session be about. It felt really important to be able to tie in those things that we all love to do and we have the time to do it. And then really think about what kind of lessons can we take away from these shows and movies that we spend a great deal of time watching and hopefully learning from. So today's podcast is really about how do we take some of the lessons from Ted Lasso as well as from The Bear and think about the different portrayals of leadership, which were so different for the characters in both of these shows. So I want to just sort of jump in to ask a question, and I'll bounce around a little bit in terms of who can respond to the question. But I would love to know what moments from these shows taught you something about empathy and leading with heart. Maddox, I'm going to start with you.
So it's not really a moment for Ted Lasso specifically. It's not really a moment, but more of a growth of a relationship. So one of the characters in Ted Lasso is Jamie Tart. And initially, he's kind of very self-centered, only thinks about himself, thinks he's the greatest person on earth. And throughout the show, Ted Lasso kind of like works him into a really great leader. And one thing I noticed watching back through the show recently was it was something that one of the chip shop owners or falafel shop owners said to Ted. He said that being a coach and a father, there's not really a difference. And throughout the show, Jamie Tart, we kind of see that his father is really not the best. Mm-hmm. So I think Jamie really started to listen to Ted because he did begin to view him as a father figure. And Ted, obviously being empathetic, was going to help him and guide him and help him grow.
Do you think that Ted intentionally set out to reshape or redefine? Do you think he saw something there and wanted to invest. Was that intentional, do you think?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think his intent when he decided to go into soccer from being a football coach is I need this job opportunity, so I'm just going to go do this. I need to get away from his family that he just divorced. So it was all right, I need to move. So that was unintentional going there. But once he viewed the team and realized that they were kind of broken apart into cliques and there was leaders and then not so good leaders, that's when he started to really invest, especially in Jamie, and he turned out to be one of the best leaders on the team.
That's awesome. Dave, I'm going to let you follow that. What were some of those moments for you that just really stuck out?
Well, one of the things you guys just said really resonated was the fact that Ted might have seen something in Jamie that Jamie doesn't necessarily see in himself, right?
Yes.
In the Bear, that comes to fruition with Carmi and Richie. Richie, who he calls his cousin, but he's not really his cousin. Italians, we call everybody some sort of familial name, even though they're not family, they're kind of family, right? So he sends Richie off to this really high-end restaurant to learn about hospitality and how things really go. And at the beginning, Richie's like, what am I doing? But there's a moment at the end of the show where the chef from that restaurant pulls Richie aside and says, he sees something in you, he trusts you that you don't necessarily see in yourself, right? And Carmi, unlike Ted, Carmi doesn't do a really good job of communicating those things, right? He has that in his head, and he's not. He doesn't do a great job of translating those to the folks that he's trying to help. But at the end of the day, some of those techniques end up working for him as well. That really resonated with me when you said that, for sure.
Yeah. What a great, and I should have probably said to folks, hey, we may have some spoilers here.
Oh, yeah.
So,
no doubt. Yeah, sorry.
I'm 10 minutes in, it's fine.
Yeah.
There may be some spoilers here, but more importantly, we hope that if you have not watched it, that what you're hearing today will inspire you to watch so that you can sort of get your own opinion and views around leadership and how that's modeled, or in some instances, perhaps not modeled. So spoiler alert, and encouraging you to watch. All right, Renisha, I'm going to jump back to you.
Jamie I'm so sorry. I had to.
That's so good.
So a couple of things with Ted Lasso that really resonated with me was the importance of understanding who was on his coaching staff and truly getting to know them. I think about the moment, this was in the first season, when Nate, had prepared notes for Ted to share, before a big game. And instead of Ted just going, I'm going to read these notes, he empowered Nate. They need to hear this, but they need to hear it from you. So just truly understanding this is your time to be shown as a leader. What does this look like for you? But then also, I'm assuming while it was not shown, that there was advocacy behind the scenes for Nate to even be promoted at some point, understanding and recognizing what he had, put in his dedication and commitment to the team throughout the season. So that really, truly resonated with me when you think about understanding who you're supporting, who, you're working with pertaining to leadership, but then also the potential that they have and giving them the autonomy and empowerment to grow in ways that make sense to the team. Because once Nate started speaking, they all began to listen. He had some very unique jokes that were very specific to some of the team members in his speech, but there was a shift there, and I really did appreciate that. And as I continue to grow as a leader, I hope that I can remember that always, and be intentional about ensuring that, okay, these are the opportunities that we have. I don't have to always be the one to do them. There are other people on the team that have, the skill set, the knowledge, the experiences, or this is an opportunity for them to learn and grow too.
You remember the first time that Ted and Nate met, right?
Yes.
And Nate was an equipment manager.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he was shocked that Ted would even acknowledge him. I hate the word just more than anything ever, right? I'm just the equipment manager. I'm just, no, you are that. That's what you are. And Ted saw that in him right away, that he had a lot more to bring to the table, right? So
absolutely.
It's really important to try to get to know everybody, regardless of what their role is in the organization. It's just really, really important in my mind.
Absolutely. And that's a great sort of lead in to the next question, Renisha, when you said there are things you're continuing to learn and grow from. What's one leadership behavior from either show that you believe you have or will try to emulate? Maddox, let's start with you on this one.
I think I'm going to go off the delegation part. I think that Ted Lasso does a really, really good job of letting people like help him. Especially he has anxiety attacks in the show, and at first he tries to hide them, and then he lets people help him. I think one of the things I need to work on as a leader is saying yes to help, because I'm always trying to do everything all at once, and I'm not Superman. I can't do it all by myself, so I will try to learn to let people help me and delegate, because it really is an important part of being a leader.
Absolutely. And it's a learning opportunity for those that you work with. They think that in that moment, feel like you trust them enough to turn something over to them. And that builds a lot of loyalty and support. So that's really powerful. Dave, why don't you try to emulate?
I think there was season 3 of The Bear, spoiler alert, Carmi came up with this list of non-negotiables, right? And some of them were outrageous, but some of them were really spot on, right? So one of the things I've really tried to do with our staff is what are your non-negotiables, right? Like what are things that no matter what we do, like our number one thing is safety above all else, right? When we're working in the facility environment that we're in and people are active and doing physical activity, for us, keeping everybody that comes into our facilities safe is our number one non-negotiable, right? So for me, that really hit home to say, let's start to put together a list of what are the things that are our non-negotiables, reasonable, but at the same time that are things that we're not going to differentiate from, and these are the things we're going to lead us through. So that would be something I think for me for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Renisha, anything else you want to add?
For me, it's calculated risk and understanding what that looks like from a standpoint of the people that are working with you to serve the populations that we're serving. So we think about the campus community and what those calculated risks are. Albeit sometimes, as a leader, you make decisions that one person may not be in favor with.
That's
but,
right.
When you think about it from a calculation standpoint, what is it doing for the greater good of the institution, the students? What is it doing for the greater good of the culture within student life, within, the Student Wellness Center? So those calculated risks, that is an area that I am in and continuing to grow and learn and develop in. So continuing with that.
I love this self-reflection and an ability. Already, we've been together for 15 minutes, and there's lots of vulnerability you're talking about characters, right, on a show,
right.
But they're so relatable that you can see yourself there, or you can take away true lessons that can apply in real life. It's not that we get a lot of shows that we do that.
That's why they're so popular.
That's exactly why they're so popular. So let's talk a little bit about the messy middle here.
Yeah.
Because leadership isn't perfect, and neither are our favorite characters. What's a moment where you or someone that you admire failed, and what did recovery look like? Dave, you want to kick us off here?
Boy, there's a lot of times where I've failed, I'm sure, right? But I think the example I use quite a bit with folks and when I'm talking to folks is when I was an applicant for the director of our department and was the unsuccessful candidate. And it's a hard thing, a hard pill to swallow, right? But one of the things I did with some encouragement from other folks, both on our team and external folks in student life, was try to find out where my blind spots were, what I was missing, what are the reasons why folks didn't necessarily see me as ready to take that next step. So there was a coaching program that I undertook, and it was really cool to see not only what what I thought of some of my skills, but what other people that, peers and other folks thought of some of my skills too. So for me, I don't know if that's necessarily a fail, right? But I failed in what my goal was. The goal was to try to get, ascend to that next position. And when I didn't, it really, you can be mad, you can be disappointed, right? But then I always tell people how you're going to react after that is really what tells you what kind of person that is, right? I think you heard the story that we have a conference in NERSA. It's called the Lead On Conference.
Oh, yeah.
And the woman that created the conference she worked with our former director, a guy by the name of Mike Dunn, and she had lost an election in NERSA. And Mike sat her down and said, okay, you lost this student election, now what? Right? So they came together and figured out what they were going to do. Putting yourself out there I tell you guys this all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you're putting yourself out there for election, you want to talk about vulnerability and
yes.
You got your peers voting on you to serve in a leadership type of a role.
Right.
And that just to do that takes a lot of courage and commitment, whether you're the candidate that gets office or not. Right. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots of humility comes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've lost more NERSA elections than I've won, right? And I don't like to say win or lose. You're the successful candidate. Yeah,
that's right.
Because we're not running for you're standing
exactly.
for office.
That's right.
But it's okay, right? That's all right. I mean, you got to keep going. You got to keep doing things.
You do.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. That was powerful, Dave. Thanks for sharing that story too. Renisha.
Understanding that I don't have to take everything so personally and that feedback is truly feedback and it's there to help. There have been 2 positions within the entirety of my career in higher education where I've walked into units to support. And it's also been around the time where tons of data was being collected just about overall feels from the team, feels from the student. And then it's like, hey, Renisha, here you are with all of this information. And realizing that it's okay if things can't be fixed today. You just need to be strategic about how to repair what you can repair. And then the other lessons that come with that, right? But then also understanding that not taking things so personally means that I have to then delegate. I also have to ask for support, ask for help, and then seek mentorship because that is so important when you think about leadership.
Absolutely.
So learn from your peers that are around you, learn from your team members that are working with you, learn from the leaders within, the units that, you are in. I learn a lot from our executive leadership team. I learn a lot from our health and well-being peers. And I learn a lot from my team. They really do teach me something every day. But truly understanding that everything is not personal. Everything is not a direct, you're doing something wrong. These are opportunities of change within, the space that you're in. These are opportunities of challenge for you as a leader and your team. These are opportunities for growth overall. So truly understanding what that looks like. Yeah.
We tell sports officials that very same thing all the time when we're training officials to be students to be sports officials, right? They aren't yelling at Maddox Rickens. They're yelling at the black and white striped shirt.
That's right.
Right? So to be able to take that, but young officials, that's a really hard thing for them to kind of comprehend.
Good.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't feel good.
It feels terrible, right?
Yelled at.
That's why we can't get officials.
That's exactly right. So everybody be nice to officials.
Yeah.
That's one of the lessons. So how do you all personally, and anyone can choose to answer this, how do you personally rebuild trust after a leadership misstep?
I think it's vulnerability, just and admission. I messed up, and I see that, even if you saw it by yourself or people helped you to see that you messed up.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable about it and admitting that you messed up can be really, really important in the first step because it's I know I did something wrong. And now I'm ready to rebuild from this, and I need your guys' help to do that. Tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Because as a leader, if you mess up and then you're closed off, I didn't mess up. I didn't do anything wrong.
But everybody else around you knows.
I'm not
You're
the problem.
only one in
Everyone
denial.
else is. Yeah. It's a terrible mindset, and nobody's going to want to listen to somebody who can't accept that they're not perfect.
Right.
It also impacts how people work with you in the future, too,
Absolutely.
because you are now the person that they don't want to come to say like, hey, the approach for this is a bit different, or, things of that sort. So it can really impact how people work with you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You cannot be afraid to take ownership of mistakes that you made. I mean, it's and everybody's going to make mistakes. So you're right, Maddox. First off, admitting it is, and how do we go from here is the number one step. You got to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Humility again.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my an organization that I used to be a part of, Leadership, we would always say that when you're in a leadership role, you're always teaching and learning at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. And it can sometimes be a very difficult line to walk because there are things that that you believe can help the organization move forward. But then you've got to figure out and recognize there are other people who have more information that would be wonderful to offer guidance and direction. And so how do you make space for both happening? How do I share what I know if I think that it can be helpful, but how do I also create enough space for others to feel really comfortable to offer a different perspective or support for where we're going? That can sometimes be really tricky to do as well, but also still very important. So kindness and authenticity, they sound simple, but they are powerful. Ted leads with kindness, and Carmi leads with authenticity, even when it's messy. Why do these traits matter so much in leadership? Renisha, you want to start here?
Transparency. That's kind of the theme of both of those leaders, right? They're transparent with their leadership. They're transparent with who you are. Rapport building and relationships are very important to people. And how those relationships go, that truly that's impacted by your kindness, that's impacted by your authenticity. People know how to work with you, and you learn how to work with people because it's all centered around relationships and rapport building. I think of Ted and the biscuits that he was consistently bringing to his supervisor, right? And how, at first she's just like, I don't want these things, but secretly she's like, bring me more biscuits, that kind of impact. So I just think that truly did help them build the rapport that they needed to build for her to truly understand the impact and the importance of the team. And so she could stop sabotaging the team. But even from a standpoint of Ted with the team themselves, like taking the time with Jamie, even when Jamie was a part of a different team, sending a note saying like, you did so great. And Jamie's just like, what do you mean? Like, this is a mind game, when it's truly just Ted being Ted and just, I'm proud of you. You did wonderful. Good job. Even being kind when, he had to make a difficult decision about Roy. I've already said a lot of spoilers, so I'll save what happened for,
we
anyone who hasn't
just spoiled the whole thing already. Let's just all embrace it.
I mean, it's been out for many years.
That's
It's
true.
like you're giving away the last Sunday's episode.
That's true. So when Ted had to make the difficult decision to bench Roy just, for the many reasons he had to, that was a difficult decision, but he still led with kindness. He still led by being himself. He did not change that decision. And even from a standpoint of the other coach telling him, like, I know you don't want to do this, but you have to do this. It was a hard decision for him, and he was honest about that. Even the coaching staff saw him struggle with that decision, but I think that it just really truly boils down to the rapport that you build, the relationships that you build, letting people get to know you. Obviously, boundaries are important with that, but still letting people get to know you so you all can have, those healthy, happy working relationships and respect the boundaries that come with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Maddox.
Actually, going off of what you said, you were talking about how Ted kind of like worked his way in building relationships and rapport. One of the things I noticed throughout the show is like early season 1, most of the hue and the shading of the show is a dark blue. Like it's very cold. Everything's cold and dreary and dark. But then at the end of season 1 and continuing on, it's like a brighter orange. And I feel like that is really representing how he's kind of worked his Ted Lasso magic into the team, and I guess like the be a goldfish and all the happy stuff, the believe sign. I feel like that was pretty representative of how he like built those relationships with kindness.
That's powerful. Thank you. Dave, anything you want to add there?
Well, Carmi might be authentic. I'm going to pivot to the bear. He might lead with, but not always in the best way, right?
Right.
There's a lot of the bear, Ted Lasso is a show. At the end of every episode, you just have like a warm and fuzzy and maybe a tear running down your cheek, right? The bear, with few exceptions, is not that, right? I mean, you are like, oh my God, what is going on here? And while he leads with his authentic self, he probably needs a little bit of work on his authentic self, right? And one of the things we were talking about earlier is if you disagree with something, and I think it's perfectly healthy to disagree as a leadership team or folks that you're talking with behind closed doors, but then when everybody walks out that door, you got to be on the same page, right?
That's right.
So that doesn't always happen in the bear, right? Probably hardly ever happens.
I was going to say, I don't think
hardly ever happens.
Ever happened.
But somehow yet they still make it all work, right?
Yeah.
So you could learn a lot about some things, what to do. You could probably learn a lot more about what not to do from some of the ways that he approaches the folks that he holds most closely to him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Carmy, though, there's so much happening in that show for him personally that showed up in the work. And it's hard to disassociate those different emotions and feelings. It always felt like he was trying his best to act as though he had it all together and knew exactly what he was doing. But then when you learn, I'm trying to not have spoiler alerts here, when you learn more about sort of the background, the dynamics of the family, and how does that, I mean, it's a very thick and wild, you struggle. Like, you want to cheer for Carmy because
you do.
You want to cheer for Carmy because you know down in there that I'm going to stop.
I won't give much away either. But in this past season, he has a really seminal moment with his mother, right? And there's a really tough relationship that they have, and I won't give a lot away. But he sits down with her and cooks a meal around something that has occurred, and it's captivating. I mean, it really, you can't take your eyes off the TV. Yeah. And even the way, to your earlier point, Maddox, the way that it's shot and the way that they are zooming in on people, it's just brilliant in terms of the conversation that happens in that episode.
I mean, and even the relationship with the mom and the daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm just sitting here reflecting now, like, that was deep too. And we saw them anyway.
Jamie Lee Curtis plays the mom, by the way.
And she is Jamie Lee Curtis in every form or fashion. Like, I adore Jamie. She can carry any role.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is.
I agree.
She can go as deep or as light as you need her to.
Yeah.
And Halloween is another. We're not talking about Halloween. But
she didn't switch bodies with anybody in this one. She did in Freaky Friday.
All right, I'm going to bring us back some way, somehow, after I took us off there. What's a moment when kindness changed the outcome of a situation for you? Whoever wants to start.
I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah.
There was a particular team member of mine who was going through a really difficult time and really they just struggled to share that. But it got to the point where we had to have a conversation just because there were some work performance things that were happening. And so instead of going into that conversation of, hey, these are all the things you're not doing, it was more so, hey, what's up? What's going on? Like, I'm truly just asking as Renisha, a human being, talking to another human being versus Renisha, the person that's supervising you, what's up? And they began to talk and talk and talk. And so from that, I was able to kind of, share some helpful resources, remind them of some resources that were built into the institution that could also be helpful. But then came the question of, what can I take off your plate? Let me help you. Help me help you be successful. But also understanding that you're a human being first, and I respect that and I honor that. So let me help. What can I do? I believe that truly kind of shifted the way that we interact with one another from that point forward. They were able to, get the support that they needed in the other pieces of, their life that was kind of, they were kind of navigating and having a difficult time with. But I also think that strengthened our work relationship because there was more trust just built into the question. And it was a genuine question. And I remember you actually saying one day, Doc, that when I ask people how they're doing, I mean it. And I'm very intentional about if I don't have time to truly listen to how you're doing, I'll just say hello.
Yep.
And then when I do
tip.
have time, then I will ask you how you're doing. And, so we can sit down and talk if it's more than just, I'm doing okay. Because I truly want to know how you're doing. So just those moments of, hey, how can I help? What can I take off your plate? Or, hey, how are you doing? Or how is the pet that you have, we talk about pets a lot in the Student Wellness Center. Yeah, a whole lot. But genuine questions like, I've had, team members where their pets have fallen ill and things of that sort. And it's truly, I'm going to Teams you. How is your pet doing? Like, what's going on? What can I do to help? Same thing with like our team members that have little humans and things of that sort. I do that for them as well. But so yeah, just truly that genuine, how are you doing? How can I support? How can I help? What can I do for you? I think it really does make a world of a difference.
I agree. Thank you.
Agreed. Just being there for someone really means the world. And that actually transitioned into what I wanted to bring up. So little dark here, but 4 years ago, my father passed away when I was a senior in high school. And that was kind of like takes you aback. It's like I am by myself. Nobody understands how I feel. Like this is terrible. But I remember showing up to his funeral and I noticed that there were like 5 or 6 school buses parked in the parking lot. And I'm like, what? Why is this here? And at first I'm like, oh, we're at St. Paul Elementary School. They're just here early. And then I go inside and almost half the school, my high school, was there. Just offering support.
Wow.
So it goes into that being as a team, especially when you're a leader, having someone or like having people show like I'm here for you is really, really impactful. It's that kindness.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Maddox. And I'm really sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Really sorry. Dave D'Angelo, anything?
To kind of piggyback on what Renisha said, I think, my one-on-one meetings with my staff that I get to work with, they're scheduled for an hour, but I don't know, the first half hour, we are just catching up on life in general, right? And it's not like I'm not seeing these folks every time, but to me, this is, my door's closed. It's you and I. This is our chance to just catch up, not only on the things that we need to catch up on for work, but like you said, how's the kids? How'd your fantasy team do? All those kind of things that we just end up talking about. So I don't know if that's kindness, but it certainly is helpful in terms of how you approach everyday work.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to move to wrap up. We could keep doing this. I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about and unpack here. But I'm going to ask you all to respond to one last question. What is one leadership lesson that you've learned from your own season 1, your early days?
For me, I'd say it's that I came out of a graduate assistant position at Ohio State, right? And I thought I knew a lot more than I actually knew, right? And just kind of having that ability to have a little bit of humility, having the ability to look at yourself in the mirror a little bit differently. You learn that pretty early on. And I benefited from that. At the first job I had out of grad school was at a place called Northern Kentucky University. And I got to wear a bunch of different hats. I mean, I was the facility coordinator, but I ran some intramural programs for faculty, staff. And we had a really small staff, so everybody's doing like a lot of different things. And, you don't know what you don't know when you're that young. You think you got it, you got it all. And I'm always grateful for both of those positions I had before I came back here, of just the different things you were able to learn and get a little bit more grounded. And I was a much better person for it when I came back here. No doubt.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
The lessons that we learn that help us to be better.
Yeah.
Even when we're, sometimes they're not always great things that we're doing, but we've learned a lot from it. Thanks, Dave. Renisha?
There is a time, space, and place for everything, and everything doesn't have to happen at this one time. When I think about that in my season 1 of just my career in higher education, now, when I'm passionate about something, that is all I see, literally just that. But it was important for me to learn, and albeit it took a while, but it was important for me to learn you have to truly take this passion and then think about everything outside of what's taking place. And then when you think about advocacy, you have to package it in a way that makes sense for everything. You can't just, because this is something that you feel right now or that you are, just on fire about, you cannot take that and then let that be what's driving you to whatever you're doing. So whatever intervention or programmatic piece that you're doing, you can allow that to motivate you, but you also have to be intentional about everything else. And then it just goes back to Public Health 101. What you do today has significant impact on what happens 5 to 10 years from now. So being mindful of that as you are creating interventions, building out strategy, building out structures and things of that sort.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Maddox, you get the last word here.
All right. So going to my quote-unquote season 1 of being vice president, so I guess the beginning, I went into it thinking, I'm gonna be everyone's favorite vice president. I'm gonna please everyone. Everyone's gonna be happy with what I say all the time. And obviously that didn't happen. That was a tough pill to swallow, that I couldn't make everyone happy. It was literally impossible. I mean, especially in Ohio Staters, we have so many different people with different opinions from different walks of life. There's absolutely no way I was going to make everyone happy. So figuring out how I could, the best for everyone, what's going to be the best choice, regardless of if people want to hear it or not, was kind of hard for me because I've always been a people pleaser. I want to make you happy. I want to make you like me.
Oh, yeah.
So that was really hard thing I had to learn at the beginning is it's not going to happen. Not everyone's going to be happy with my decisions, and I just have to be okay with that.
Yep. And that can sometimes be so hard from a leadership perspective because we're all human. We all feel deeply. We care about whatever it is that we're doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
Exactly.
And you think that you have the best interest of the org, right? And you're carrying that through. But the light bulb moment is when you realize other people don't. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't because they're missing really important nuggets. They don't always know what's happening in the background.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a leader, you can't tell people what's happening in the background, right? There's some things you just have to keep working at and working on.
Put your shoulder down and
Put your shoulder down and go through it. But because people they don't have all of the data, then assumptions are made. And then that can make it really difficult, particularly when you're moving into that spot of being liked or not liked. It's based on misinformation or lack of information, which as a leader, you don't always get to just share everything. You really want to. Yeah. You really want to
so
say, if you only knew X, Y, and Z.
I could tell you,
if I could tell you, right?
Think differently.
You would probably think differently. But that doesn't always happen. More than likely, we can't share all the things. Dave, you were going to say something.
What I was going to say to Maddox is it's the coolest thing about being an advisor for staters is seeing how folks like Maddox develop over the years. But not only have you developed over the years, think about when you first started in your vice president role and now that you're coming toward the end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a marked difference in my view of how effective you've been. And you ran that faculty breakfast a couple weeks ago, and I remember telling Jocelyn, I said, that was the best faculty breakfast I've ever seen anybody run. And that was part of the vice president's duties. And
what made it good?
Just the way that you were organized, you had your bullet points, you were ready to go, you were ready to accept feedback from everybody. And a year ago, or when you first started, you probably that was not the case.
It was not. It was very scrambled.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So think about that as you reflect on your time here, as your guys' time on exec is coming to an end.
Mm-hmm. And all those lessons carry you through life.
Yeah.
You don't forget. Even the celebrations, you love those, but it's also those really tough moments that you will go back to, hopefully not as frequently as you did when it first hit you.
Yep.
But boy, do those lessons help to shape us and who we are. Just so important. You all, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your insight and the level of vulnerability that the three of you had immediately when you came into this space, I think is a great model of what leadership is. It's allowing your true self and the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful to all be a part of your story and sharing that with one another. And now with the listeners who probably have never even, many of them may have not ever seen Ted Lasso or heard of The Bear. I hope that after this discussion and the lessons that you've learned and the things that you've taken from the shows helps them to say, maybe I need to pay a little or have a little more Ted Lasso in my life, to think about kindness and then, Carmi's over here just being as authentic as Carmi, right, can be.
Yep.
I don't want to find my middle ground. But you all just did such a beautiful job in connecting the dots, not just about the show, but making it such a big part of who you are and the lessons that you've learned. So I feel like I've learned a great deal today just based on what you all have shared. So just thank you all so much for your willingness to engage in this way around this important topic, which is really about humanness and human kindness and how far that can actually take you. It's pretty remarkable. All right, friends, until next time, please keep leading with heart. This is Doc signing off from Doc's Download, the podcast edition. This program is a presentation of the Office of Student Life at The Ohio State University, recorded in the studios of WOSU Public Media. Your engineer is Dalton Jones, producers J. Randall Hicks and Matthew Swearingen, and executive producer Jen Vandemark. The views expressed are those of the host and guest and do not necessarily reflect those of the university. Join us next time for another edition of Doc's Download, the podcast.